Welcome to this video about one of the variations of the King's Gambit accepted, and that is the Allgaier Gambit. And play moves on like this. White starts off with the King's Pawn opening. Black does the same. White gives the Gambit. Black accepts. And now White moves on the Knight to F3 to prevent the Black Queen from delivering the check on H4. So now Black brings a defender for the pawn. White piles up the pressure, and this is one of the reasons I'm making this video, as a matter of fact. It's not a very sound opening, as a matter of fact, and you can only expect to play this against a weaker opponents or average opponents. You're playing against friends, and or you're playing online and you want a quick, gruesome checkmate. So this is it, because at any point Black could make a move, a blunder, or just a stupid mistake, and you can capitalize on that and just devastate Black. And this is one of those positions. If Black plays H6, then Black just lost the rook, because White will just go ahead and capture it, and if Black recaptures, the Black rook is dead. But let's just assume that Black is not such a novice, and Black will just go ahead with the first few book moves, and that is what normally players do. They just remember the first few moves of any particular opening, and they're not familiar with the many different variations and like their refutations. So you go ahead and play Knight to G5, and this is the Allgaier Gambit. If at this point White decides to play Knight to E5, then that is the Kieseritsky Gambit, which is also a very nice opening, but we're not talking about that one right now. So instead of the Kieseritsky Gambit, we're now looking at the Allgaier Gambit. What does Black do at this point? Traps the knight, and the white knight has nowhere to go right now. They'll just go ahead and capture the pawn on F7, and the Black king does this. So this is like the normal continuation of the Allgaier Gambit, and the whole point for White to play the Allgaier Gambit is to expose the Black king, and it has managed to do that in two ways. Number one, all the defenders in the shapes of pawns are so far advanced. One of them is gone, actually, and these two are so far advanced that instead of providing any protection for the king, they themselves need protection from being plucked, because this one is under attack from the queen, and this one is going to be under attack once White opens the way by moving this pawn to either D3 or D4 preferably, and then this pawn would be under attack from this bishop on C1. Now at this point, White has achieved the first objective by exposing the Black king. It cannot castle anymore because it has moved, so White now has to exploit it. Now at this point, it might seem logical to just go ahead and capture the pawn with the queen straight away, but the danger with this move is that, and one of the reasons that it's not considered to be one of the sounder moves, is that you'll just lose momentum, because Black will just move this pawn on D7, and then the queen is under attack from this bishop on C8, and you're going to lose momentum. You're going to keep moving, but you won't be thinking about checkmating the Black king. You would just be thinking about saving your queen, so that's a loss of momentum. That's why it's not one of the better moves. Instead, we'll look at three other moves. One is bishop to C4, this variation. Another one is more positional, more like sound, and that is knight to C3. And another one is just go ahead and consolidate your control in the center by playing D4. Now bear in mind that because the Allgaier Gambit, despite all the efforts of various Grandmasters, it's still not considered to be a sound opening by White. whichever move you make, like black can refute that by sound positional play. But the good thing about it is that you cannot expect. Sorry, this is the second time. Yeah, you won't expect the average player to memorize so many, like different positions and all that. Chances are they'll just slip up and you'll end up delivering one of those gruesome dismemberments that, you're going to see that once you keep playing this, and you're going to see a lot of different, very satisfying checkmates with this. So let's just have a look at these variations. Bishop to c4 check. And the best move for black at this point might be d5. Looks stupid at the first glance because black will just go ahead and capture it, and the black king is still under check, and you think, what's the point? You just lost a pawn. Well, actually, black did not lose a pawn if you think about it. Black was already a pawn up by capturing the gambit, and it just gave up the gambit pawn, and while doing so, it just gave this pawn on g4 a defender, and now the queen cannot jump up right there. So that's the sound move, and now black can save his king in one of two ways. It could either go back to the initial position, and in that case play might move on like this, and you can see that black is strong. All the threat is neutralized, although it's in a very precarious position, but still, no. White cannot expect to do anything. If anything, the white king itself is under threat right now. At that point, black could also have, instead of bringing the king back to the initial position, black could have played the other move, king to g7, and this, believe it or not, is supposed to be the better move of the two. Play it with one like this. Once again, nothing there for black to be afraid of. Threat neutralized. My purpose for showing you these moves is that chances are, if you're going to play the Allgaier Gambit, if you play an average player who's not familiar with a lot of theory and stuff, you're going to be winning some really good matches very quickly. And that kind of gives you the false sense of security that this is a great opening and you're just going to dismember everybody with it. No, black can easily neutralize any threat. So while looking at these refutations, you might, study a little deeper and come up with your own answers. Another move might be this one. Bishop to c4. c3. Sorry again. Knight to c3. And play would move on like this in this case. Once again, threat neutralized. You can slow down the video and look at the strengths and weaknesses of different squares and different pieces yourself at your leisure. I'm just showing you the variation. What's the other variation for white to play? This, consolidate the center. And in this case, play could move on like this. They're supposed to be the better moves for both sides. Once again, the black king is kind of hung in the corner, but it can still save itself. So everything depends at this move. When the black king captures the knight that had ventured impudently so far ahead, at this point it is up to you. You experiment with these moves, with the bishop to c4 check variation, with the knight to c3 variation, and with the pawn to d4 variation, and you play these different ones, and then you'll discover your own strengths and weaknesses, your own particular kind of play, and you'll come up with a system, and believe me or not, you'd be surprised at how many matches you're going to win with this against the average player. Before I just wrap up the video, let me very quickly show you a real match between Laskov and Soloviev, in which everything went according to plan for white while playing the Allgaier Gambit. So you can just slow down the video yourself and watch it. Actually, sure, just gonna race through the moves. The Allgaier Gambit. the knight variation, knight to c3. Play moves on, and pretty soon you're going to see black is going to end up in a mess from which it's impossible to get out. Oops, trouble. If you think that was bad, wait till you see this. And now it's just starting to get a little hopeless for black. And now it's not hopeless anymore. In fact, it's just going to be a forced mate from here on. Right here. At this point, black resigned. But if you run this match through Ribka or any other engine, you're going to see there's going to be a checkmate in just a few moves. So that was the only logical thing for black to do. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Go ahead and play it online, and I hope you deliver some gruesome checkmates. Thanks a lot for watching the video. Bye-bye.